Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
Shout out to all those poly triads, kinky quads, and anarchist unicorns. This is Billy Procida, and you're listening to the Man Whore Podcast. Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to the show. I am your host, a chubbier and body dysmorphic version of Billy Procida. If you are new to the program, normally on this show, I talk to women I've hooked up with about sex and dating and love. However, this week's guest is not one of my former flames. No, very special guest. I've been waiting to have her on the podcast for years, literally. Diana Adams, everybody, is on the show. Diana Adams is a poly rights activist and a lawyer extraordinaire. I'm really excited to share her with you. But first, got some show dates for you people. Show dates. Tomorrow, January 5th, I will be at New York Comedy Club on the 8:30 p.m. show. And on the 10:30 p.m. show, I will be roast battling former guest of the podcast, Alex Engelbert. You can get $5 tickets to that when you use the promo code Billy at NewYorkComedyClub.com. We are going to hurl problematic insults at each other. It should be quite fun. I'm going to try not to cry afterwards. Then Friday, January 6th, I'm at Dangerfields on the 10:30 show. Saturday, January 7th, no comedy show, but I am hosting a speed dating event with OnSpeedDating.com. I'll be running an event for singles between the ages of 25 and 45. If you want to get $5 off your ticket, use the promo code Billy5 at OnSpeedDating.com. And for more information on those shows and more, head on over to manwhorepod.com/comedy. I know I'm throwing a lot of URLs at you, but while you're over at manwhorepod.com, sign up for the mailing list, people. That's how you stay up to date with all your latest Man Whore Podcast news. Last minute today of the day that I'm recording this Monday, I announced, hey, I'm live streaming a bonus episode. Watch it now or forever hold your peace. And you wouldn't have gotten that information if you weren't on the mailing list or like the Man Whore Podcast on Facebook. I don't tell you to like and follow these things for no reason. It's because I actually put out information there that you may be interested in. My New Year's, Happy New Year, everybody. I should have said that really up top. I think by now, by the time you've heard this, the Happy New Year thing is a little old, so who gives a fuck? But, Happy New Year all the same. And I want to tell you more about my New Year's and what I'm up to and read some of your emails and more. But first, I'm very excited. I want to announce I'm doing a contest. As you all know, I'm sure, I do a bunch of bonus episodes of the Man Whore Podcast for people who support the show on Patreon. I make them exclusive to the people who pledge a certain dollar amount on there, and they have access to dozens of episodes of audio content that isn't normally released here on the regular feed. And I am giving away free access to all of those bonus episodes, both the ones at the $5 level and the $10 level. I'm giving away access to those to 4 lucky listeners this month. Yes, once a week. And I want to tell you how you can enter. It's very easy. You don't have to do much. And there's a lot of different ways to enter, so you don't have to do all of them. But the more you do, the more of a chance you have of winning. First way to get an entry is to be on my mailing list. Pretty easy. To sign up for the mailing list, go to manwhorepod.com, fill out the information on the right-hand side and of the website, and boom, on the mailing list, you got an entry every week. Okay? The next way is like the Man Whore Podcast on Facebook. If you like the fan page on Facebook, boom, you've got an entry every week. Another way to get an entry is to write a Facebook post tagging the Man Whore Podcast that includes the link manwhorepod.com. Include that link, tag me, you got yourself another entry. And finally, if you write a tweet about the show, use the hashtag manwhorepodcast and include the link manwhorepod.com. Boom, you got another entry, okay? That's 4 right there. If you do all 4 in a given week, you're going to get a 5th bonus entry into the contest. So if you do all 4 things every week, you're going to get 20 entries to win like seriously hours and hours of bonus content. A lot of you have probably listened to all of the episodes by now. Some of you just can't wait till Wednesday, right? Well, now some of you are like, I wish there was more man whore to consume. Well, what I'm trying to tell you is there is. And this, unless you want to go to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast and get those bonus episodes outright, this is an opportunity to win them for free. I know I just threw a lot of information at you. It's all summed up if you go to manwhorepod.com/contest. You'll see a link in the show notes to that, and it has all the different ways to enter. Speaking of the bonus episodes, I've just put in a new fundraising goal on Patreon. Currently, we've been hovering around the $330 mark for several weeks, and I've now made a new fundraising goal. If we hit $500 pledged, not only will I use that money to travel to different cities to get episodes with my ex-lovers and sexperts around the country, I will also produce an additional monthly Man Whore Podcast bonus episode that is available to all of my patrons for just $1. So you can become an official fan whore for just $1 a month if you go to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Again, look, I know I'm throwing a lot of websites at you. I just go to manwhorepod.com. It's got all the links, okay? You're going to see the blog post explaining the contest. You're going to see a page that has my show dates. You're going to see the button so you can sign up for the mailing list or to pledge on Patreon. It's all at manwhorepod.com. Okay? Cool. Now let's chit chat. I know I've been rambling. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to be a long intro. My New Year's was good. Originally it was supposed to be like a New Year's Eve orgy that got downgraded last minute to like a New Year's. I guess it turned into like a tops optional hangout. It was fun. It wasn't fun in the beginning. It got fun as I drank whiskey, but it got fun. It was nice. Once you start introducing whiskey and musicals, like some show tunes, give me some Book of Mormon, some Hamilton. I think we played Fun Home Ring of Keys or whatever. So as we introduced like music and some whiskey, I lightened up. The snack game was subpar. It's maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just a fat fuck child who's like, can you please give me potato chips and cookies? Because I show up and Paige is like, no, he's set on snacks. He's set on booze. I show up and there's some booze. There's only like a dozen of us, but the snack table is really just like, there's a little thing of chocolate. There's crackers and cheese and some like salmon stuff to put on the crackers. It was basically a table of crackers and things you could put on the crackers. I was hoping for like, I don't know, like a pizza or I don't know. It's fine. I got by. The last thing I need is snacks, but I was disappointed. People, up your snack game, okay? You want to make any party dope? Have a solid snack table. If this seems petty, I'm very passionate about my snacks, okay? But Paige and I had a wonderful New Year's Eve kiss and all that jazz. This is actually more than New Year's. I want to tell you about, I saw this movie yesterday on New Year's Day. So I went to go see Fences. Okay, it's got Denzel Washington, Viola Davis, and this may not seem relevant to the podcast, but I think it does. It's based on the play that Denzel also starred in on Broadway. It takes place in the late 50s in Pittsburgh, like working class black Pittsburgh. Great fucking film. Holy shit, just the acting. I cried so, just crying pretty much the whole movie. I was a big fan, but there's a scene. So spoiler alert, if you don't want to be spoiled, scrub ahead about 2 minutes, probably. Okay. So in the scene, at one point in the story, Denzel tells Viola Davis he's been having an affair and that woman is pregnant. And they get to talking about their marriage. They've been married together for 17 years. When Viola Davis's character got pregnant with their son, there's talks of commitment, about choosing to love, about, responsibility as a family person. You know, like he's talking about as a man, he has a responsibility to his family, he has a responsibility to his son. He's not even necessarily happy that he has this son, but he knows it's like his duty as a biological father to fucking be there and raise this kid and do right by him. And to do right by Viola Davis by providing for the family, right? And when Viola says, you know, do you plan to continue seeing this woman? His character doubles down and says like that he loves his wife. He loves her. He doesn't want to leave her. But this other woman makes him feel a thing he hasn't felt. He can't remember the last time he felt it, right? He's describing like he makes her happy. She makes me laugh, a laugh I have never laughed in my life. She provides something for me that you can't. It wasn't even a sexual thing. This wasn't a case of like, look, baby, you ain't fucking me, and this woman does. It's not even about that. This was, he's in love with two women. And now, obviously, looking at it through the, like, you know, the polyamory lens that I see a lot of the world through, I'm thinking, wow, Poly really could have helped these people out. And there's a flash hint of it. For just the briefest moment, he says, before he says the truth, he says, I was hoping we could come to some sort of understanding, before Viola just cuts that off. And so you think, not only could non-monogamy have helped this marriage in that he could have been more open about his desires, or Viola's character could have approved of him seeing other women, and it could have set down rules and boundaries, or she could have understood that just because he now loves this other woman doesn't mean he loves her any less. And it's a very interesting film to watch through a polyamory lens in certain parts. But it is a fucking fantastic film altogether. Also, you know, it's an all-black cast. I think I saw 2 white people the whole movie. And the great thing is, I didn't watch it thinking like this is a black movie, you know? Because you see the hashtag Hollywood so white, hashtag Oscars so white, and typically, you know, when you got like a primarily black cast, it's going to be what? A slave movie, a biopic about gangs, or it's Medea, right? What I loved about it is like blackness is the character's blackness is the setting. It's not the plot, you know? I think it's exactly the type of movie that so many activists, I believe, want to see. It doesn't erase that. I mean, they talk about the struggle and so many references to this, that, and the other thing. I mean, it's the fucking late 50s in Pittsburgh, you know? They don't have it quite that easy. It comes up. But that it's not the plot, and that's just the setting. Just like they talk about the racism that they're facing, the same way they talk about the weather. It's the setting of the film. Give it to Denzel, give it to Viola, give it to the guy who plays the handicapped brother. Give it to him, all of it. I would go straight to Diana, but I really want to read these emails. I got a couple emails I wanted to read from some listeners. I thought were quite good. I got one from Madeline. Hey, Maddie. She writes, hey, heard your comment on a recent episode. Might I suggest not roofieing yourself? Let me contextualize this for anyone who doesn't know what she's talking about. I think I've referenced at least a couple times that Paige and I have a rape fantasy where she's raping me, but we want to do it like in my sleep, and we want to set it up so that I couldn't wake up in the middle. Like nobody wants to wake up in the middle of their rape and ruin it, you know? So like we were like, how could we make it so I genuinely won't wake up when you sneak into my apartment and do things to me with my consent? And we thought, okay, what if I roofie myself and then text you before I let myself pass out in the bed? But then we got to thinking like, okay, but where does one buy roofies? Like, I don't know. You can't text your drug dealer that question, right? That's so when I'm assuming I've talked about this on a recent episode because Madeline is saying she heard it. So Madeline, let's just say she's got an expertise in the field of professional drugs. She says, she continues in the email, roofie can mean a lot of different things. Some I've seen send people to intensive care. If you do, consult and buy from someone you trust who really knows their party drugs, and consider dosing before the experience to understand what might happen. If you're pretty inexperienced with synthetic drugs, this could end up way more intense than you're looking for drug-wise, not sexually. Might I suggest an edible as a safer and possibly more enjoyable alternative? A potent cookie with an indica, in parentheses downer, strain will likely put you to sleep within a couple hours and at least make you reluctant to be mobile. You'll feel like you can't move, but you totally can if you need to. With this, you're eliminating scary chemicals. You'll remember everything and be pretty giddy about it all, but you'll feel too, quote-unquote, heavy to participate much. I've really enjoyed this on occasion. I think it creates the fun, quote-unquote, taken advantage of feeling that you're looking for. Good luck. Maddie, holy shit, that's a brilliant idea. That is such a good idea. That's way better than the idea a comedian at an open mic shouted out at me the other day. He's like, hey, what about Vicodin? Like, I don't know. I just want to knock myself out and let my girlfriend put things in my bum. Why is this so difficult? But the weed thing I think is brilliant. I even like it better if I'm a little cognizant, but like you described, heavy. Too heavy to participate. That sounds hot. That I want to do. Got another email from we're just going to call her Jay. She asked me not to use her name. So she says, hey, Billy, I've been listening to your podcast for like 6 months now. And I just wanted to let you know how much I really love listening to your show every week. I'm an 18-year-old girl who's only had one sexual partner, but I still consider myself to be a very sex-positive person. I've learned so much from your podcast. It's helped me to feel more proud and open with myself about sexuality. I'm the only girl in my group of friends who owns a vibrator and pays for porn. Although recently I am proud to say I persuaded one of my friends to buy an X Confessions video, which by the way is an amazing porn company. I got to the point a couple months ago where watching people fuck on Pornhub just wasn't sexy anymore. And as you know, it's often hard to find porn on tube sites that isn't degrading to women. If you have any listeners that want to pay for porn that's feminist, ethical, and female-directed, they should look into X Confessions and Erica Lust. Not sure if you've mentioned them before on your podcast, but I would highly recommend their stuff. Erica Lust, that's spelled E-R-I-K-A, Lust, is a fucking badass porn director, and she even has a TED Talk about porn. That's the way she used the punctuation. I would never otherwise deliver a sentence in that fashion. Anyway, thanks for being awesome and have a happy new year, Jay. Well, I have never mentioned X Confessions nor Erica Lust on the show, but hey, now I have. People, go check it out. X Confessions, Erica Lust, pay for your porn. If an 18-year-old can pay for her porn, either through her money or mommy's credit card, whichever, you can throw down some money towards content creators you appreciate as well. And again, as for someone who's only had one sexual partner and feels sex positive, yes, I want to address that. You do not have to be a slut to be sex positive. You can be a virgin and sex positive. You can be monogamous and sex positive. Sex positive just means you think people should do what they want to fucking do in the privacy of their own apartment with however many fucking people of whatever genitalia they want to do it with whom they want to do. That's better. Yeah. So that's great. And I love that, and I love that not only do you pay for your porn, but you convinced another friend roughly your age to pay for porn. That's fucking awesome. That is great. Go you. I reached out to Erica Lust to see where she's at. Hey, maybe have her on the podcast. Sadly, it turns out she lives in Spain, España. She will not be doing the show anytime soon. So thank you for those emails, people. And if you want to send me an email with your comments or your questions or, hey, your booby pictures, you can send me an email at manwhorepod@gmail.com. And now for Diana Adams, our guest this week. Oh my gosh, I've been talking for arguably too long. It's Diana Adams is just a badass individual. You may have heard her on the Savage Lovecast several times. That's where I first became aware of her. I'm just going to read this from her website so that I don't misword what they do there. But Diana Adams Law and Mediation is a boutique law firm practicing family law by providing support for positive beginnings and endings of all types of family relationships. We provide services for intentional family formation, including creative prenuptial agreements, assisted reproduction, adoptions, co-parenting agreements, and non-traditional family arrangements. They offer and work with clients in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer communities, as well as people in the polyamory and kink worlds. I think that's fucking awesome. And we're going to talk about plenty of that in a bit. I was so excited to talk to her. Again, so this is an episode, it's very poly heavy. A lot of polyamory talk, a lot of non-monogamy talk, a lot of legal talk too. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to shut my face and let Diana do the talking.
I'm used to breastfeeding, so I'm going to use a breastfeeding pillow.
Breastfeeding technique for podcasting?
Technique for podcasting.
I like that.
Yeah.
I can dig it. And then Diana Adams Esquire?
Sure.
When you got the degree, did part of you go like, now I get to be an Esquire? Was that?
That was nice.
Is that a nice thing?
That was nice. I would have preferred doctor or just boss, but Esquire is pretty close.
Boss Diana Adams?
Boss Diana Adams.
Why can't that be on a degree?
I like that. Yeah. If I could get that degree, I would, but I've been working on it informally.
Awesome. Well, Diana, thank you for coming on the show after all this time. Finally got you on.
I'm glad to be here.
Diana Adams is a lawyer and a poly advocate, and you do mostly family law, but like with poly and queer families, right?
Yes, I do a variety of different kinds of family law practice and family mediation practice. I avoid litigation whenever possible with people who are polyamorous, as well as people who are in multi-parent co-parenting situations, which could be a gay couple co-parenting with a lesbian couple or with a single friend. I also do, single parents by choice, other kinds of platonic co-parenting between two friends, and work with a lot of same-sex couples and queer families, as well as doing the more straight family law. But when I do that, I also inflect it with those values of family being able to be something that you can create in your own way. So when I do a prenup, even for a straight couple, I'm trying to shy away from that traditional model of this being an adversarial document and more into the realm of these kinds of conversations about sex and about money are incredibly intimate. And rather than shy away from them or have them be in the framework of a litigious attorney, they can also be a means of building intimacy and feeling an element of risk and deeper vulnerability in your relationship by talking openly about things like what monogamy means to you and what money means to you, which I think every couple needs to do.
Yeah. I like that prenup by design, just like in poly, kind of just, relationship by design. You do it however you want to design that relationship or divorce or whatever it is. That's pretty,
right.
That's cool. Wait, so now same-sex marriage is legal in New York. So we're done in the States. So we're done, right?
We're
finished?
So not done.
Because marching is getting tired. I'm so
I know.
Exhausted.
Our arms are getting tired holding the banners, but we're not done because we've now achieved same-sex marriage, but where we're left are with issues of same-sex parenting. Mm-hmm. And one of the big challenges is that there's this incredible pushback and backlash from the religious right on same-sex marriage. And so I'd say that the top issues they're pushing back on are against transgender people who already face so many obstacles in society. They don't need, legislation about whether they can go to the bathroom. But we're seeing that kind of pushback. We're also seeing pushback against parenting by same-sex people. And then thirdly, non-traditional family structures. So I'm at the nexus of all of those things, working with those kinds of clients. And in terms of same-sex parenting, it still is really complicated state by state to figure out whether you're a legal parent and what the status is, the means to achieve that. And so that makes things very cumbersome for clients.
They got to be like, I want to move to Oregon, but they have these weird laws. I can't do it. We can't raise our kid there or whatever.
Right. And very few people would have the means if you're a same-sex couple in New York and you establish your legal parenting status here, which might be if you're a female same-sex couple, for instance, a second parent adoption, which would mean that the non-biological mother gets her legal parenting status established. So then if we go elsewhere in the country, you might need to think about what's going on in different places. So the good news is that there is a way to achieve these kinds of parenting statuses, and people just need to be very familiar with going to get the basic legal documents done. Adoption is a thing that will really help everywhere. So second parent adoption, that will help. In New York State, if you're married at the time of a birth, you can have your name right on the birth certificate, even if you're a female same-sex partner.
So even if you're not biologically attached to the kid. Even if you're not biologically,
if you're married to the mom, you can benefit from this old-fashioned parentage presumption. So that would be like, if 50 years ago, my white husband and I went into the hospital and I had a black or Chinese baby, they would just be like, we don't see anything. Like, you're married to her, so you get the marital presumption that you're
super
the dad.
recessive genes.
Super recessive genes, yes. And so lesbians benefit from that. So
do they do like an asterisk or anything to acknowledge that someone's not biologically related to the kid on a birth certificate?
They don't.
Do you think there should be a little bit? Yeah, that could be useful.
That could be very useful. Yeah. But now, interestingly, a birth certificate is no longer a means of that kind of biological connection. We're seeing some complexity with this, though. So in that very basic female same-sex couple, if they get married in New York and they have the baby, that non-biological mom is the mom in New York. But in order to have her parentage respected in other states, she needs to get a second parent adoption. To. However, then for anything that's slightly more complicated, we don't have a means of establishing that. So, for example, sometimes there's an involved a person who would be a sperm donor, except he's not relinquishing his rights as a sperm donor. So if you have the donor dad person who's helping out a lesbian couple, and there's also a wife, a non-biological mom, there isn't really a means for establishing a 3-parent family.
By means, you mean like a legal standard or something,
right? Once you get to the 3 parents, then it gets much more complicated. Or even the way that sperm donors are treated state by state differs. Whether surrogacy is allowed state by state.
What's the best state to be a sperm donor?
Oh man, that's a difficult question. But
where do I have the most rights as a sperm donor?
California. And Massachusetts also tends to be progressive. You would imagine that New York would be, but we actually are very influenced by the Catholic lobby and have very old-fashioned family law. We were the last state in the union to have no-fault divorce. Without no-fault divorce,
what is no-fault divorce again?
So no-fault divorce means basically we're getting divorced. We're not asking permission from the state. We're saying irreconcilable differences. We don't need to give you a reason. But when you need to have fault, like grounds, that's you asking this sort of paternalistic daddy state, like, please, I want to get divorced. And the court will say, you don't have a good reason, so you need to stay married. That literally would happen.
They can't do that anymore, right?
They can't do that
be like,
anymore.
You guys got to stay married? That's fucked up.
There can still be litigation if the other person contests it and is like, there aren't irreconcilable differences.
We're doing great. Everything's fine. They're like that meme with the dog with the fire around. It's like, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, totally. So we were the last with that, and we don't necessarily guarantee that we'll respect sperm donor agreements. In some ways, this can be a bit challenging because you have 2 aspects. You have, we made a sperm donor agreement saying, this man is only a donor. He's not going to be a father to the child. But then if you behave differently from the piece of paper and he suddenly is picking the kid up from school and the kid's calling him dad and he's with him every Tuesday and every Saturday, and acting like a dad in many ways and establishing a parental relationship, New York will go with your behavior over the piece of paper.
Oh, okay.
But is
there like
states,
an uncle clause where it's like he's not father rights, but he's got like uncle rights?
We call that an avuncular relationship.
An avuncular relationship?
Avuncular sounds like it means like you got a skin condition, but actually it just means like an uncle. Okay. But I like the term spunkle.
Spunkle?
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, so spunkle. You're not going to see it in a legal contract, but
there should be.
There should be. Yeah. So that kind of thing is you don't have any legal rights. You can't decide I want the child to be raised Jewish or go to this kind of school or have input on when they get braces. Yeah. Or have right to visitation or say you can't move as the mom or something. But, you have a relationship that the moms could say, come to the kid's birthday party because you're a special uncle. Some lawyers will even say, just to be cautious about litigation, don't even allow that kind of relationship. I think that we need to acknowledge that people can build families in their own ways and that people sometimes do feel a special connection, whether it's a gay couple, or a heterosexual couple who has difficulty having children and uses an egg donor and a surrogate. They sometimes have a special relationship with that person, just as somebody might, whether they're a single mom by choice or a couple that needs a sperm donor, then they may sometimes have a special relationship with that donor.
What made you want to get into this type of law specifically?
Well, I am a queer person and a polyamorous person, and I was doing family law before this in more of a straight context, working in legal services for people in poverty and handling a whole gamut of cases. But then just because I was in this community, people were asking me, and particularly asking me about polyamorous issues, because there really was nobody doing this 10 years ago.
And you were like, can everyone stop asking me for legal advice for free all the time?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I can't do that. Right? But also it would be, we need somebody to come argue this case in court. And then I would go and argue the case in court, and we need somebody else to come to a different case. And there just wasn't anybody else who had as much experience with polyamory, because I happened to be already a polyamorous activist and a family law attorney.
Because someone's got to explain to the old guy on the bench, like, what that is. He's like, poly what now?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And during that time of the big sex addiction craze, when the term sex addiction was way overused, and it would be, David Duchovny or somebody, or Tiger Woods is like caught with an affair, and they're like, oh, sorry, I'm a sex addict, sort of like saying like, I'm an alcoholic and I'm going to go to a 30-day program and then I'll be fine. Yeah. Rather than acknowledging that maybe they were just having non-normative sex, right? Or that they weren't monogamous or something. People actually preferred to
or that they were just
addicts.
a shitbag.
Or that they were just a jerk.
Yeah.
Right? I was just a jerk to my wife. That's all. So anyway, that term was being used a lot, and I think being applied to people who were polyamorous or kinky, or who were performing in adult films, people who weren't necessarily addicted to anything, meaning that it wasn't that they were actually following the definition of sex addiction, which is used now, which is that you are trying to stop, you can't stop, you're causing harm to yourself and to others, and you have a compulsion. Just like if somebody had a drug addiction, like I want to stop doing heroin, it's ruining my life and I can't stop. That's an addict. Somebody who likes to get spanked and is having absolutely no problems in her life with it is not an addict, but for a time I was seeing a huge number of child custody cases in divorce.
They try to use kink as a means of like, well, she likes all this crazy kinky shit, so she's not a good mother.
Right. And so what it would be somebody's either kinky or they're polyamorous or both. And their ex, maybe they're leaving their ex, and the ex is really angry and is like, you're ruining my life by leaving our marriage, and so I'm going to ruin yours, and would say, she's a sex addict. I had a case in which there was a client who actually worked in a daycare and left her husband and wanted to pursue a polyamorous and kinky lifestyle. And he took pictures of her, private pictures from her computer of her in bondage, and mailed it out to the kids and the parents of the kids in her class and the other teachers in the school where she worked. And I've had a number of cases where there's been harassment like that, where especially if somebody's a teacher or something, or working with children.
Something like that would be now covered under like revenge porn law, right?
Yeah,
in the states that have it.
It may be, yeah. And what I actually used at the time in cases like that, and for that specific case, I use domestic violence protections, because in New York State, an employer
which is where you practice, right?
I have practiced quite a bit in domestic violence survivor support, and an employer needs to provide a safe harbor and not allow a domestic violence offender to show up at work, or if they send something to the office, you can say, we're not going to open anything from this person. And that's a way that an employer can support somebody in a domestic violence situation. And in this situation, this person was saying, I'm going to ruin your life, and was harassing her. And I argued that was a form of domestic violence. We might now use revenge porn laws, but I think before revenge porn, I used domestic violence, because that was something that was an established part of our law. But I've argued many, many cases and done quite well, because what I do is I separate out, okay, this person's behavior is non-normative. Is that associated with any form of mental illness? Or is this at all related to their parenting judgment? No, because the slippery slope that would happen would be, the judge would be saying, and the opposing attorney might be saying, you have a kind of sex that I cannot imagine. And so if you would have sex that I can't imagine, maybe you would do other things that I can't imagine, like showing porn to your children or having sex in front of your kids, or just generally having bad judgment, and I would try to separate out that slippery slope. That's maybe a stereotype and a judgment. Just because this person's sex life is different, this is within the realm of normal, healthy adult sexuality, and has nothing to do with their parenting judgment.
So many people, they hear things that they don't understand. Like when they can't put themselves in that scenario, they automatically go, well, that's like out like it can't possibly exist. When I explain to people like non-monogamy, they're like, well, I could never do it. I'm like, no one asked you to. Like,
Right.
You don't have to understand it. You just have to accept it's a thing that people are going to do. And just
I could
leave
never
them
be a race
alone.
car driver. I'd have an anxiety attack every day, but I don't need to do that. That's fine.
I don't understand furries. Okay. I don't understand spending that much
understand
money on a costume, but hey, you do you, boo boo. Just, don't make me put it on. That's all.
I feel the same way about sports fans. I don't understand watching a small box and people on a tiny screen running around. I got to say.
And I don't understand people who don't understand that.
Right.
I'm like,
right,
how do
there
you
you go.
not enjoy watching grown rapists hit each other
Right.
repeatedly in the head? I mean, isn't that
fun.
kind of the dream?
Yeah.
That's the closest thing to social justice you might get with some of these guys.
I like that. Good spin. I'll enjoy it more. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
I would also like is if they made a rule change where instead of the names on the back of their jerseys, it just said their crimes.
Ooh, nice.
Right? Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice. I think I'd like to just go out there with a bat, and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rockin'. Though I think the first time I became aware of you, the first time I actively became aware of you was when there was this story going around years ago with this throuple that got married in Massachusetts, right? It was Massachusetts?
Yes.
Right. And that you were involved in that. But then I realized I recognized that name because I've heard you on Savage Love a bunch of times.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, awesome. But the throuple. So how did that work? You essentially had helped 3 women get married, right?
So that was a case actually in which I was more being interviewed about the larger context, but I didn't specifically work too much with them. But basically, they were having a commitment ceremony. And at this point, you can't actually get married between 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
But just like many same-sex couples years ago were having their own kinds of commitment ceremonies, doing things that looked very much like a wedding, and either calling them a wedding or a commitment ceremony, even if they couldn't go and sign a piece of paper at City Hall. Having that emotional covenant of what a wedding really traditionally is getting up in front of your community and saying, we're making these vows to each other and hold us to these vows and let's celebrate it. So there are polyamorous people who are having those kinds of celebrations, and I tend to help them. And so I help them as well as non-monogamous couples, to come up with their own vows. And think about what are we actually vowing to? Because I think that we have the right and the responsibility to actually define what we mean by marriage if we're getting into it. Yeah. And I think for far too long, we've just accepted marriage the way that it's occurring in the legal code with over 1,000 different rights and responsibilities that people don't have any idea about when they're signing on to marriage. This is the only way that.
What
you
are
can
some
have
of
a
those
relationship.
obscure ones? Because when same sex marriage was the huge fight, and I would hear about state to state there's a thing, but they don't have the federal protection. I'm like, yeah, I get there's tax stuff, visiting in the hospital, and kid things, and then I'm like, what else? Right. Do you get?
There's a lot of them. The most important piece of what marriage means is that you basically become a social welfare state of 2. That the government does not want to have to provide for if somebody is impoverished, if a single mother would be needing help paying for her children. And so they want the 2 of you to combine and pool your assets. So that means if one of you gets into trouble and you have, if one spouse goes off and gets $1 million in debt in Vegas or making bad financial deals and the other spouse had no idea of it, the other spouse is still going to have to pay for that. And similarly, if the other one was going out and making a lot of money or buying properties, the other one's going to benefit from that. So you basically are sharing your finances and becoming one financial unit. And that's pretty basic. Many people know that about marriage, but I was actually astonished that in the same-sex marriage fight, many people would be so excited about the political meaning that you'd be seeing surgeons and broke artists getting married and combining their financial portfolios and having no idea that's what they were doing. They had no idea that if they're not creating a prenup that, you just became one financial entity. Whoops. You make negative amount per year. You make $500,000. This is a big impact for both of you. And so I think people really misunderstand that. The other piece that was so significant with the federal benefits for people is immigration, that you can bring in your spouse. You can bring in a spouse and get immigration benefits that they can become an American through marriage. Something else is health insurance. You can get health insurance often as a domestic partner, but still have to pay high taxes on it.
It was so crazy. People were bugging out saying well, gay people are going to start marrying dudes to help get them across the border or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but so straight people could do that.
And they do that
all the time.
Yeah.
I have a buddy who was in one of those situations for a little while, which by the way, he did. I was like, how much you getting paid? He's like, nothing. I was like, oh, you're an idiot. get some money out of this, dude.
I mean, that's an incredibly dangerous thing to do
Yeah,
legally.
because it's insanely illegal.
But people do it.
Yeah.
And so there was all this critique that maybe gay people are going to be gaming the system to try to get the benefits of marriage. But that's what straight people do.
Yeah,
when you set up a system where you can't get immigration, you can't get the health insurance, you can't get the tax benefits, et cetera, unless you get married, then people are going to get married for that reason. I mean,
they're worried the queers are going to do it because, like, well, we know we do it, so we don't want you to do it too.
Right, yeah. And I mean, how many of us know people who were dating but then got married because they needed it for the health insurance or it would just make things easier, which is not a great reason to get married. It's just like people in New York move in together because one of them, lost their rent-controlled apartment and they can't afford another apartment in the neighborhood they want to live in, so they move in together. That is not the reason to combine a life, And I see a lot of those people later in family mediation when, it's a slippery slope of like, well, we might as well move in together because it's cheaper, and well, we might as well get married because I could get your health insurance, and
you might as well get divorced because I can't stand you.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So things like the throuple ceremony or arrangement or other polyamorous or alternative family model arrangements, what are some factors that would go into that, like paperwork wise? Because I'm assuming, and I might be wrong with like say that throuple in Massachusetts, that like two of them got legally married to each other and then maybe some other things happened. So what are some factors that would determine like, okay, who's going to technically get married to whom, and how are we going to arrange this? What are some like factors? Like if somebody's got like the sweet health insurance, maybe they're definitely going to be involved in the legal part of it, right?
Right. So when a triad comes to me or a quad, and they want to figure out, okay, what are we doing? We're forming a family. I'll talk to them about what their priorities are. What are you hoping to achieve? Does somebody need immigration? Does somebody need health insurance? Is one of you going to be financially dependent on the other? And then with that, you're going to buy a property together in what shares? How are you going to contribute to your household finances if you're all living together? So once we establish that, just as I do with a couple, but with, extra complexity if there's more people, then we talk about what legal tools can we use to kind of creatively cobble together as much stability legally as we can get. Because we can't just say, okay, the three of you get married or the three of you get domestic partnership. Right. So one of the questions would be, are any two people going to get married? Because if it's a 3-person family unit, sometimes people don't want to get married. And in fact, I've divorced perfectly happy couples because they're now in a triad and they didn't want the third person to feel left out. So in that situation, maybe a divorce is the best thing for them.
A divorce that brings people together.
A divorce that brings people together.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, happy divorce.
Happy divorce.
Yeah. And in other situations, we might decide, okay, this person needs their immigration status. So they need to marry one of these two people. Whom does it make sense for them to marry? If one person has the most money in that 3-person unit, do we want the person who needs immigration status to marry the person with the most money? Or is that going to leave the third person out in the cold in terms of financial? Is it going to make it seem like, okay, this person's going to get the benefits of the retirement account and the third person gets nothing? That may not feel fair. So we'll talk about those kinds of factors, which are both legal and also emotional, how people feel about this. Some people...
You got to play part counselor.
Yes.
Couples counselor.
I definitely take on the role of counselor at law. That aspect of being a lawyer is a big part of my job. And I'm a trained family mediator. And so that's something I really enjoy, actually, is helping people get really clear about what it is they want and how they can create that. So, we may decide that it makes sense to get married for practical reasons for 2 people. And some people are able to think about marriage as a practical tool and not get too hung up on the emotions. But we talk through that because for some people, it might feel really bad for that third person for 2 of them to get married. And that upset is not worth it, So we'll talk through that and how would that really feel? And let's imagine we're there in that day and, we're doing this for immigration. So maybe you're not a big part of the ceremony or maybe the parents don't know and you're not, you're just the best man now. How does that feel?
Best man with a good wink.
Exactly. A best man with a good wink.
They say like, I do. And then he's just mouthing, I do.
Uh-huh.
I do
right.
too.
I do too. So we talk about that. We'll also think about things like, do we want to do a power of attorney, which means that one person, whether you're married or not, could have access to making financial decisions, cashing checks, things like that. Do we want to have a joint bank account? Do we want to do a healthcare proxy so that third person who's not married to either of them maybe
still tied in?
He's still tied in to visit in the hospital. Think about, do we want to do a will? If we want to buy real estate, we'll think about, okay, how are people going to do that? Are we going to be buying in co-equal shares? Or is it going to be in the proportions to contribution. And similarly, as with any couple, I think it's really valuable if you're living together to think about, how do we split this? Do we split 50-50 our rent? Or do we think about it, especially if your incomes are not very similar, in proportion? Do we each pay 20% of our rent toward household or 20% of our income toward household expenses and rent? Or, is that feeling fair? So we'll talk about those kinds of things. And if there's kids involved, that's a whole other layer.
Yeah, I mean, that's just...
That's a whole other layer. And we can do a co-parenting agreement between 3 parents. But ultimately, in New York State, we only have 2 legal parents. We have to choose. So there'll be usually the biological mom, and then maybe it's the guy who gave the sperm, or the woman who's married to mom at the time of birth, or the man who's, whoever's married to the person at the time of birth is one way to establish a legal parentage claim, or somebody who gave a biological connection, a sperm or an egg, are 2 different ways. And so we might structure it in some way like that, so that, okay, you at least have some biological claim. You're giving your sperm, but you're not giving up your rights, but then you'll be married to her. So that's a legal tie, and your name can be on the birth certificate. So this is some way that maybe later on, if we can have third parent adoption in New York State, that we might be able to do that. In other states, third parent adoption has already been created, so that there are legal parents in Massachusetts, in California, in Alaska, and Texas, which is embarrassing. How do they have it and we don't? And where that comes in are situations that look like either a step parent who's getting the full rights of a parent, or as a lesbian couple and a man who's giving his sperm but not relinquishing his rights.
Texas makes that law, and they go like, they had no idea it was going to help like LGBT people, and they were like, oh god damn it,
Oh yeah, totally.
But it seems like there's tricks. Like there's some tricks that can be employed now, but eventually, something like third parent adoption and such has got to change. In the famous dissent with of last year, it's like, one of the concerns was, I say with air quotes, was, now there's going to be like group marriages. And my response to that is like, yeah, so what? But what do you think, that's something that is in the semi near future, or is that something that would be legally too confusing? Or what do you think the next step in the marriage fights would be?
I think that we will see some sort of formalized family partnership between 3 people or 4 people. I think,
and then the five groups are going to then feel left. They're going to be like,
right.
Quad privilege, it's
right. That's the issue for 30 years from now. Is quad privilege. But I think we will see these kinds of things happening. But I think we'll see them being unbundled from marriage, which has this Judeo-Christian background that we do marriages in churches and synagogues, and I think we'll use a different word for it. I could think that will be a much easier sell. And I think domestic partnership is incredibly valuable, and so I'm an advocate for us, now that we have same-sex marriage, not abandoning domestic partnership, because it's actually really useful. I think it's useful right now for couples to have the option, because with domestic partnership, you're often not sharing your finances. The definition of domestic partnership differs by every city and every state, which is also confusing.
Yeah.
But if we could have some more standardized domestic partnership policy, that could be a way that people could affirmatively choose and be more intentional with marriage. They have this in some
Can you be
countries.
married and domestically partnered with? Can you be married to one person?
No.
Okay.
Generally, that's one of the requirements, is that you attest that you don't have that kind of family union with somebody else. People sometimes do that anyway and try, but generally you need to pick a person. And I think that we'll see people, moving more into that domestic partnership model, because I think it's very valuable, even if it's just that 1-minute decision at the city hall. Do we want to be domestic partners and share our health insurance but not share our finances? Or do we want to actually get into all of the meanings of marriage, which, besides the things I mentioned, which are the big ones, also includes, it may have big implications on your taxes. Even if you file separately, you may have to file married filing separately. And lots of other small things, like you can be buried next to each other in a military cemetery. You don't have to testify against each other in court. It's just on and on and on.
The mob just gets married to each other in one big polyamorous way.
Yeah, totally. Like, I don't have to testify against him.
Tony's my boy, and kind of my husband.
Right.
I'm not queer, but he's my husband.
I like that. Maybe we'll see that. That'll be coming out on HBO and a while.
You'll get like weird. You'll just get like advocates you didn't expect to have.
Yeah, totally. That happens. So I think we'll probably see people maybe moving more into that domestic partnership model, and I'd be excited about that also, because I think if we had, domestic partnership that was not related to marriage, that would also invite and welcome people to be able to create families not based on sex. Because ultimately, it doesn't matter whether you're having sex or not. If the two of you want to create a life together, maybe you want to co-parent a child, or you want to buy a house, it doesn't matter if you're sisters, if you're best friends, if I want to do this with my gay best friend, rather than running out and marrying some guy I've dated for 3 months, which has been our previous model for women who are 40 and want to have a baby. I think that there's perfectly valid ways to create family that also could be getting that kind of privilege of getting some kind of legal status. And what I'd like about that is that then it could be, 3 people are creating a domestic partnership. It doesn't matter whether they're having sex. It's none of the state's business, because I'd like to get the state out of the business of deciding whether your sexual relationship warrants you getting tax benefits. I don't think it's any of the state's business. I think you have the freedom to create your family the way that you want to create it. So if my uncle and my sister and I want to buy a house, we should be able to do that. If we want to share our finances and share taxes, fine. If I want to share my finances with my sister and my elderly mother, we should be able to create some sort of partnership if that's what we want to do, if that's the best thing for us. And so I'd like to open that up to give people more freedom. And then if we have a 3-person domestic partnership structure and the 3 people who are getting into it happen to be 3 people who are in love and also want to do a big commitment ceremony wedding, great, but I would like to see a bit more of that. And I think we would maybe get less pushback, because marriage is so triggering for people because it's got such weight culturally and historically.
But at the same time, you still want to set up a thing that, like, a system that can't be gamed, because it's like in the government's best interest for everyone to technically like remain single, right? So they don't want like groups of people to like jointly file taxes.
Well, actually, the government wants people to get married and has had incentives for marriage for many years because of that social welfare state of 2 thing.
Okay.
They feel safer. The government would like for instance, women who might get pregnant to have a spouse. Because if the woman has a spouse and she gets pregnant, then that person is going to be in charge of paying the child support. And even now, when a woman applies for public assistance welfare, they're going to be like, who fathered that baby? Because we're going to go find him and he's going to pay us back for the welfare. So the state would like to pay as little in public benefits as possible. And one way they do that is that they say, okay, if these 2 people are partnered up, if something happens to one of them, the other one will pay for it. Okay. So that's worked pretty well for the state. And actually it's been a problem sometimes, because in welfare policy in the 90s, there were these welfare marriage incentives, which was completely ridiculous. It's like we're spending our tax dollars on billboards for like wedding rings or a pamphlet when a woman goes into the welfare office and says, I need money to be able to support myself and my child. And they say, well, have you thought about getting married? Which I think is the government being a pimp to poor women. Go get into a sexual relationship to pay for your basic food and rent so that you can provide for your kids. I think that's pimping. I think in that example, sex work should be legal, but pimping should not be. Pimping being exploitation.
Well, right,
and I think
if
someone's getting into a sexual relationship for money, it should be their own choice, and not because the government decided that they're going to be too cheap to pay public benefits because we'd rather pay for the military. My opinion.
Fair enough. Let's take a brief break to do the impersonal Patreon thank you roll call. Yes. Okay, folks. I was thinking of renaming this portion to the Fan Whore Appreciation Moment, sponsored by Pepsi. Pepsi's not a sponsor, although I would love for them to be, but I also do genuinely love Pepsi. This is the part of the show where I like to thank everyone who supports independent content creators like myself on Patreon, specifically people who support the Man Whore Podcast on Patreon. Patreon, if you don't know, is kind of like a monthly fan club subscription. You pledge a certain dollar amount, you get different cool rewards, and the money goes straight to me, the creator. And like I announced earlier in the show, I have launched a new goal. Actually, several new goals. I'm going to announce another one next week. But one of them is that if we hit $500 a month, I will produce an additional Man Whore Podcast episode every month that is available to all of my patrons, no matter how big or small their pledge is. Hopefully that will encourage many of you to go throw down just $1. Like I said, if every single listener throws down just $1, I'm a professional podcaster and comedian, and I don't got to do anything else for work. I just get to make things for you. But in the meantime, I want to thank the dozens of people who are already supporting me there. So right now, thank you to Jennifer C., SB, Lance S., Madeline B., Jazz O., Jeff C., Dave K., Justin C., Ramon F., both of the Sarahs, S and B, Prickly Peach, Lawrence B, Holly F, Greg A, Andrew R, Megan S, Ed B, Anna Super Slut, Gregory Y from the Bowery Boys podcast, Chris with a K, hey, thanks for the raise, Sean N, Chris W, Toby T, Alex S, Lauren M, Emily S, Mark G, Kyle R, Scott G, Frank D, Jackie S, Rachel O, Doug R, Millie W, Michael P, Blake B, Daniele G, Stuart A, Jessica K, and we're almost there. Brian W, Julia F, Danielle D P, Ashley C, Jeff Z, thanks for the bagel, Raphael R, Derek E, thanks for the undies, Catherine B, Lindsay C, Feel Better Soon, Anthony G, The Very Nude, Chuck G, Todd B, Zilla T, Derek N, Johnny S, TQ, Dervla, Owen S, Dave P, Scott B, Dylan C, Alfredo A, CJK, oh man, so many names, Steve Dean, Daisy R, Julian D, and Jacob S. We made it! And you too can join dozens of fan whores by supporting the Man Whore Podcast on Patreon. You can pledge as little as $1 per month, and you can alter your pledge at any time. To do so, go to manwhorepod.com and click the Patreon banner on the side. Or you can find the nifty Patreon app, and you can find me on there. That is Patreon, Patreon. But for now, back to Diana Adams. Are you cool talking about Open Love NY?
Sure.
So you were one of the founders, right?
Yes, I was one of the founders of Open Love NY.
We've had Leon on the show a while back. So yeah, Open Love NY is is the biggest, I guess, right? Poly meetup group in New York.
Yes, and I started Poly Cocktails, and now Poly Cocktails is in cities around the country. It's pretty amazing, and I really appreciated that because that was a community building space. It's not a cruising space. It's not a play party. It's something like that. It was just a space for people to be able to get together and meet other people who are polyamorous. And we always had hosts who would be available if people, are new to poly and they have questions. We're poly and have kids, and we'd say, "Oh, go talk to this person over here." And it's just amazing what the interest. I mean, it's skyrocketed. The space is always too crowded. We're always looking for a bigger space because we'll get hundreds of new people. Because
it's like the only game in town. It's like if you're interested in poly, like that's the play. I mean, Poly Cocktails is the first thing people usually will recommend.
Right.
But what would you say? Because I know some people like say this chair. Some people do feel like sometimes it can be a little cruisy, though. Have you ever have felt that way?
It can be cruisy, and I think that can be an okay thing. We've talked about how it can be beneficial maybe to have a separate. Some people in other cities do things like where they have like a wristband of like whether you're interested and available, like looking for new partners, because we don't want to have any assumptions that just because somebody says they're poly doesn't mean they're available.
Right. That common
I'm
misconception.
Poly, but I'm booked.
Poly but booked.
Yeah, my poly dance card. I'm polysaturated.
Polysaturated, great term. Great term.
So because I'm poly and because I'm open about it, I get come-ons online like every single day, like as if because I'm poly, some random guy in Detroit, I'm gonna like fly to Detroit and have sex with him. I mean, it's.
I mean, to be fair,
ludicrous.
even if you weren't poly, he's a guy in Detroit who, and you're a woman on the internet. He assumes you're gonna fly to Detroit and have sex with him.
Totally. Be like, hey, I noticed that you're poly. Great.
I know
I'm having this bachelor party, it's terrible. But yeah, we just because people are poly doesn't mean they're interested. So
just because someone's poly, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about poly automatically meaning slutty.
Right.
Like I've met and gone on dates with people who I thought would be more like interested in like casual sex, and they don't do casual sex at all.
Right.
Yet they're polyamorous.
Right. So people might be in a couple of long-term dating relationships, and that's it.
Yeah.
They're not interested in anybody new or anything casual, only people that they're actually really in relationships with. They just happen to be in relationships with people who, 2 or 3 people at a time, perhaps. So one way that we've managed that trying to keep the space safe at Poly Cocktail, we have this acronym LOVERS, and we hand out this information and send it out in all of the invitations that is really about this being a safe space, that we don't make any assumptions, like leave your assumptions. This is a place to practice open communication and explicit consent before touching people, and that we don't make any assumptions of people's sexual orientation. Just because a woman's at Poly Cocktails doesn't mean that she's either available to new people nor interested in men. So,
or interested in women,
or interested in women. We don't know. So, trying to keep it a respectful space. And then because we have hosts there, we ask people to come and speak to the hosts if anybody's making them uncomfortable. So, that way, what I try to do is make it a teaching moment. I don't...
rather than an outrage moment.
Right. Rather than just being like, we're kicking you out. I mean, there's some behavior, we'll just kick you out. Yeah. But most of the time, I'll pull somebody aside and be like, Steve, it sounds like you want to meet women. Could I give you some feedback about that? And generally, Steve will be like, please, dear God, help me. This is not working, And I'll be like, let's check in. Like, don't assume, don't like barge straight into a conversation that's about your sexuality. Not everybody needs to hear what you're into immediately. Have some small talk, read the body language. Don't put your hand on her arm if she's moving away from you, basic social skills kinds of things that people may not have. And then I'll refer them to some workshops where they can get some of those skills.
Are there people skill workshops? Christ, I need that.
There actually really are. They're not called people skills, but sort of emotional and social skills about things like consent, especially for being in spaces that are more sexy or cuddly. Cuddle Party is really amazing at that kind of thing. And there are lots of other things like that. So there's plenty of, places people can go to. And I think actually people who have social skills challenges can sometimes benefit from some of these skills in communities like polyamorous communities, because in poly communities, you want to be really explicit about things like consent and boundaries. And for people who have trouble reading those kinds of cues, this can actually be really good for them. Because it's like, okay, I actually ask you if I could put my arm around you. I don't have to try to read and guess and figure out based on your body language, which I'm not good at.
I'm a social idiot. Because I had no friends growing up, so I don't have to go into that. But that's why I didn't really develop certain skills. So the first play party I went to was Hacienda, and that's like the only party I really go to because it's the first thing, because it was so consent heavy. I also like that it was very like gender neutral on all the things. And so I was like, oh, this is great. I ask if I want to put, or she's got to ask me if she can put her hand on my thigh. I was like, this, I can handle that when we're like going to get explicitly asking. Then when they started giving out these bracelets, I was like, okay, like I can, like that stuff is very helpful for me.
Yeah.
Who like, I normally, if I'm like at a normal party or at a bar, like I'm just confused about like how people interact. But like at a fucking orgy that has like strict consent rules, I'm like, oh, I understand this.
It actually makes sense. And I think that kind of more explicit verbal consent is just helpful in general. And then I think I teach at colleges about consent and communication and bystander intervention to prevent sexual assault. And I'm really passionate about that. And I think that a lot of the lessons from the polyamorous community and the kinky community, where there's a lot of explicit communication, can be really, really helpful. Because obviously, it's not working out right now among college students, and there's a lot of gray areas, a lot of feelings of being violated, and colleges are really struggling with how to handle that. You always want to believe the person who feels victimized, and at the same time, are we going to be kicking people out of school because somebody felt violated, and if we're not sure if it was rape? I mean, it's incredibly complicated. Schools across the country are grappling with this really intensely right now. And
what do you think they should be doing in regards to that, in regards to respecting due process and also respecting the victim or the alleged victim?
I'm advocating for more of a transformative justice model, which moves away from this traditional, really masculine, aggressive model of litigation that we apply to these situations. And that kind of old-fashioned model is we each line up, we tell our story, and there's a winner and a loser. One person's wrong, right? Either he's a rapist or she's a liar. That's the traditional model. And I think that oftentimes situations are much more nuanced than that. And that we can acknowledge that maybe we don't need to completely cast this guy off the island, and from society. And that it may actually be beneficial for him to learn, to have this be a teaching moment? What will he do to learn? I think that having an opportunity for somebody who's been victimized to directly confront in a facilitated way and talk about that experience can actually be tremendously impactful on helping the person who may have done something that was violating to really feel that, to feel empathy for that, and to feel a sense of responsibility. And in that kind of process, it can be, what does the victim need to feel safe? Does she not need to see this person? Does he or she not need to, need extra support in some way? What can we do for them? And then on the other hand, it would be the person who may have been perceived as the abuser. What do we need to do to give them the tools and the resources to give them a consent boot camp, or do they need some counseling? What happened here? Yeah. And I think those kinds of processes are actually much more effective often. And then of course you have situations like Brock Turner.
Yeah, you have violent stuff gets treated like that way.
If somebody is doing something to somebody who's unconscious, then they deserve to get kicked out of school and have the scarlet letter on their back for the rest of their lives. But for the many situations where it's much more of a gray area, if both people were inebriated, if it's unclear about consent, things like that.
They're just a bunch of awkward 20-year-olds who don't want to communicate.
Right. And so there's a lot of those situations. And I think those could be, we need a different word besides rape. We need to be able to acknowledge, okay, this over here, this was rape. But there's other categories between healthy consensual sex and rape. And I think we need to figure out a vocabulary for talking about those difficult situations as well. Yeah. And so I think there does need to be some sort of like, okay, you gave somebody a spank on the butt at a party when somebody else was spanking them and you should have asked for consent. There needs to be some word that separates that from the unconscious woman behind a dumpster.
I was reading yesterday, and not to prepare for this, just I happened to see it and I was like, this is interesting, was that there's some group, I think it's called, to correct me, AIS, something like some legal group society, and they're meeting right now in New York to discuss changing the criminal code to like update it for rape, and talking about what the threshold for consent should be. Should it be affirmative consent? Like, should it be no means no? They were talking about a phrase, contextual consent.
Was that AVP maybe?
That could be
Anti-Violence Project.
No, it wasn't. It was like a legal society. It was like, I guess these guys, they this group, they help form criminal codes, and a lot of states will pluck from what they define or something like that. It was in Vice yesterday.
Oh, interesting. I'm not actually familiar with which organization that is, but I would love to know. And I work generally with groups like that. And my associate attorney at my firm, Andy Eisenson, has written a lot about affirmative consent.
What do you think the legal, because I think I'm not an expert, my opinion on it doesn't matter because I'm some comedian with a fuck show. My opinion was that I think affirmative consent is the threshold, is a threshold for good sex. Like, I think that's a great way to have good sex. I don't know if that's what the legal threshold should be. What do you think the legal threshold for consent for sexual assault should be?
I think that it's really, really tricky. I generally think that affirmative consent is the gold standard, and that then there are sort of degrees from there of, you should have recognized that the person not only didn't say yes, but was giving you body language and other signals that maybe either they were too intoxicated or that they were not enjoying what was happening. And then there's into of course, if somebody has said no or is struggling, obviously that's a forcible act. But I think there is a place for that gray area of, you should have read the body language.
Contextual consent.
Contextual consent. Yeah. I think that we need to leave some gray area, because I don't think that we can create a criminal code that says you need to have explicitly said yes every time, because we do need to have that kind of context for who are these two people, what was happening. We need to hear the story. We need to hear the story from both of them, how they feel about it, how the person who feels victimized feels about it and experienced it. I think all those things are really relevant.
All right.
Because in any given situation, I think there are those details that may not be universal. And I think that also, for me as a 37-year-old woman, I am much more able to express myself than I was at 18 years old. And I think we need to also think about the level of of power, the age, the maturity of the people who are involved, and their ability to express themselves. That's also part of the context, I think. Yeah. But I think it's really, really difficult. My best means of addressing sexual assault on college campuses, because there's no perfect solution, my best means is by trying to teach and spread that affirmative consent model, and that verbal communication is not ruining the moment. There's this idea that, like, I think movies and culture give us actually really bad lessons of sort of like, you're supposed to just know, and then you lean in and you have this incredible connection. But a lot of times when people do that, the other person's not on the same page. They had no idea they were in the middle of a romantic comedy moment. And a lot of movies, like even like Say Anything, which was my incredibly romantic movie, my favorite when I was at slumber parties. It's like he's outside of her house with the boombox, and I think she's already said she's not interested. In movies, being like, no, you said you're not interested, but I'm just gonna like show up outside your house in the middle of the night. That's romantic. In real life, that's stalking. And so we get these really bad lessons where it's like, just push, show her that you're persistent. Persistence is actually creepy in real life often. So those kinds of things of actually being able to talk about things, and is this okay? And actually, I think given how many women have experienced either sexual assault or at least creepy and violating and invasive behavior, for many women, it actually feels really good and makes them feel more comfortable being like, is it okay if I do this? I'd really like to kiss you. Yeah. Is actually putting a lot of women at ease. Like, okay, great. He's not about to pounce on me, and he actually respects me. Yeah.
Hot tip to any of the guys listening. Like, I know I've mentioned like what Hacienda's rules are with, even just a shoulder touch. I've employed that like at a bar or on a Tinder date, and it's almost novel to them. They really, it's like, it's calming. It actually works. Like it doesn't kill the moment. If anything, it really enhances. It's going to help you out. Like, try it, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Try it. I think most women that I experience really like that. Right. And I think that's powerful. And then I think also bystander intervention is really also a key.
What now?
Bystander intervention. And that's our term for when somebody else has an opportunity. It's like that see something, say something kind of thing, but apply to things like sexual assault. If you're the bartender and you're seeing a guy getting a drink for a woman who looks like she's had too much, if you're the bouncer and they're leaving the club together, if you're her friend, and the cab driver, there's many, many people often along the line who could have said something. Yeah. Who could have been like, are you okay? Do you know this guy? Do you need some water? Do you need to go home? Maybe you don't need another drink. And maybe she's going to be annoyed with them for saying that. But I have been that person for a long time. And once in a while,
the bystander. Or the
I've been
person?
The bystander. Okay. I've been the bystander who intervenes a lot, and I'm the person who's the bossy feminist who will go up to a random woman at a party and be like, "Hey, do you know him?"
I understand why. I understand why you say you get hate mail, because like if you're the bossy feminist, man, the internet hates bossy feminists.
Oh, the internet hates bossy feminists for sure, for sure. And, rapey guys at bars really don't like me either, because if she says, no, I don't really know this guy who's...
Fucking killjoy, man.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my rape on. Like, why she gotta ruin it?
Yeah, just 20 minutes of action, like Brock Turner's dad said. Ugh. Yeah. So yeah, it actually feels really good to do that. And even in the times when the woman's like, no, I'm okay, I think it helps them realize that, like, hey, maybe the situation I'm in doesn't look so great. Am I really okay? Am I really consenting right now? Yeah. So I think all of us looking out for each other a bit more, being aware of, like, if you're going to have a big night at a party, having a friend that you go with, that you check in with before you leave.
Just having compassion for strangers. I mean, it's not even for sexual assault. You see the person at the party who just looks depressed as fuck.
Yeah.
You just go say, hey, you all right? What's going on? I'm Billy. I would never say that because I'm shy at any party, so I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm usually the person in the corner. It's fine, but
totally. And I mean, I also, if people seem like they may be having a drug issue, I was at a burner festival, and there was a guy, he was like tripping and had mud in his mouth, and I was like, I might get my finger bitten off, but like, I don't want this guy to be choking in the mud here. I can't just keep dancing while there's this guy writhing in the mud. Like, you go to parties and you see crazy things, and so I went over and was like, repeat after me. I'm not going to bite her. He scooped the mud out of his mouth, gave him some water. I'm the party mom. So I'm always checking in on people, like giving people, I give out water and I like check in on whether people are doing okay. And that actually makes me feel good. I only want to be in spaces where people are like that with each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You told me that you get hate mail. You get a lot of flack.
I do. I get a lot
for
of
the
flack.
work you do. And you're not even doing the work like stopping the rapist raping necessarily. You're just trying to help people who love each other legally, and you get pushback.
Right. I get a lot of pushback.
Why? Wait, who's yelling at you?
Well, because I did quite a bit of media as a polyamorous person, and also, if you Google polyamory, sometimes you see pictures of me, which is very strange. And
the poster lady
for polyamory. And also combined with that, I'm advocating for people to be able to create polyamorous families, and I'm serving a lot of people. And I think that I'm threatening because I'm a well-educated, articulate attorney who's may actually be dangerous. So I feel, it's scary. So I actually, I take it as a compliment. There was this Christian right press that said I was like one of the most dangerous people in America.
That's badass.
I was actually really, really flattered.
Hang that up.
Yeah, totally. It was almost like it was an Onion article that was like from my publicist or something. Right? It was like totally, it was like along with Jon Stewart and Joe Biden and like
that's
Richard
great company
Maddow.
to keep.
Yeah,
you're like,
this is
you.
An incredibly dangerous person because she's letting thousands of people know that they have the option to create families. And
do you get John's number now? Like, can you do that?
I wish
that would be great.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this is the best hateful article I've ever seen. But then of course people in the comments called for a pray-in for my suicide. Okay, just think about that. People like, what kind of Christian? I grew up Christian. Yeah. What kind of Christian is praying for some stranger to commit suicide? It's
hey
bizarre.
Todd, I'm just sorry to interrupt you. So this happened last week's episode, which is of many weeks ago because I don't know when this comes out yet. But I put out nonchalantly, hey guys, remember to go vote. I'm assuming you're all voting for Hillary because I can't imagine you listen to some slutty show and are voting for Trump. But like, hey, if you are voting for Trump, email me because you're probably a unique individual. That episode's out for 4 hours. I get an email from a dude in Arkansas, like this 24-year-old guy. He's voting for Trump. He's anti-choice. Loves my show.
Wow.
And
odd combo.
Yeah, and his reasons have just been insane. So hey, Todd, you hear me? This is your people. Before you tell me that your people are like you are the strongest ones when it comes to sex values and communication and sex education, these are your people. Praying for suicide of a lady who's just trying to help some people love each other better.
Yeah.
Just letting you know, Todd. That's all you.
Yeah. Sorry. On your team.
Back to your praying for suicide. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah. So I've seen that kind of thing, but also people just feeling like advocating for this is incredibly threatening to the traditional family structure, and
like it's going to ruin their family.
It's going to try to ruin their family. I try to address those kinds of claims with a fierce empathy. And empathy is really hard to have when people are saying things that are calling for my own violence, calling for something terrible to happen to me, or criticizing me. But I try to just have the empathy that what they're concerned about really are the same things I'm concerned about maybe. Are the children going to be okay? Are our families going to be okay? Those are my values and priorities too. And I think that people just may have a much more limited view of what that means, what that looks like. And I think people are really fearing change. We're seeing a tremendous amount of change in our society. And I think this Trump effect we're seeing right now, where there's this rise in hate crimes and even anti-Semitism. I mean, anti-Semitism is retro. Like, really?
That's a throwback.
There are still people who are anti-Jews. Like, that's your issue? Really? I can't even believe it.
The KKK even accepts Jews now.
I believe it. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre. I can't understand where it's coming from sometimes, but I think there's a lot of people who have fear. A lot of underneath all of that anger and that hate is really just fear and insecurity about what's happening. People who just can't wrap their heads around the changes. Love
wins.
But love wins. Love wins. And I think that a lot of those values are actually people have the right to create their families in those kinds of ways, but let me have the right to create my family in my own kind of way and support other people in doing the same way.
You're doing amazing work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
and
that.
thank you for coming on the podcast. If people want to ask you questions or need your help or want to just follow the work that you're doing, where can they find you?
Thank you. I'm dianaadamslaw.net online, and that's a place where you can find my public Facebook and my Twitter and my monthly mailing list where I talk about talks that we're doing, many of them free and open to the public. And on Twitter, I'm at Diana Adams ESQ.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Feel free to say goodbye to everybody.
Awesome. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. And I support your right to create family the way you want to. And if you need help with that, let me know.
Awesome. I love that we got to start the year with a kick-ass episode in Diana Adams. Thank you so much to her for making the time to let me come over and record. Again, dianaadamslaw.net to stay up to date with what she's up to. It's very funny. I said, so why dianaadamslaw.net? And she goes, I want dianaadams.com or dianaadamslaw.com, but there's a guy squatting on the website. And she tried to buy it from him. She says, and he said, no, I think you're going to be a big deal. So I want more money. Like, she offered him 10 grand for the website. And he's like, nah, I think you're going to be a bigger deal. So I think you're going to make more money. So I want more. And she's like, hey, thanks for believing in me, but I think you're wrong. But hey, let's hope that crazy mean man squatting on a domain name is right. I would love to see her achieve all the things that she wants. You can find me on Twitter at @TheBillyProcida. Say hello. Use the hashtag ManWhorePodcast. Let me know what you thought about the show. And if you want to say something privately, shoot me an email at manwhorepod@gmail.com. Join the conversation with your fellow fan whores on the Man Whore Podcast subreddit. There are individual comment threads for every episode. I also post links to articles I'm quoted in and pictures, and I make announcements. And you can also make posts yourself where I love to interact with you. So for all you Redditors, that's r/manwhorepodcast. Last but not least, you can become an official fan whore for just $1 a month on Patreon. It's because of my patrons that I was able to quit my day job, and I would love to be able to quit all the other things too, just to make more content for you. Make a pledge today by going to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Next week, I'll be having on a former fan whore turned sexual partner. We've got Claire on the podcast next week. Very fun times. But until we get to her, stay slutty.